Hello, hello. Hey, great to see you. Just get the camera right here. Hopefully, I won't bash my head over this all the time. So I got today's witch or tomorrow morning's witch all penciled out, of course. Been working all day, so many things. Yesterday was kind of a wash for a number of things, so I played catch up today. See here. So our work's done, packed up. I still haven't. I called Canada Post to do a pickup for 2 days in a row, and they didn't pick up, so that sucks. I wonder if there's some sort of busy shipping season coming up, because every time I schedule a pickup, they say estimated pickup time instead of like pickup time. It's kind of annoying. Anyways, so everything's ready to go, so it's just a matter of time till it actually gets into the hands of the shippers and everything. And what do we got? Well, we got 11 days left on the Coven book campaign. I'm going to pull the now tired graphic out. 11 days left on this. Tomorrow, I'm going to start a 10-day countdown. So I'll be sending out more graphics in social media saying 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. So that hopefully that'll push people up. Right now, we're at 15.6 thousand, which is decent. I mean, I've seen the profit and loss sheets, like what this is going to cost us. So it sounds like a lot of money. It really isn't, because almost all of that's going to be eaten up by shipping and printing and sorting and all that stuff. 173 backers, which is great. I'd like to get that over 200 by the end of the week. I don't know if that's possible because we're still in that middle period of the campaign. And like I said, 11 days left in the campaign as of right now. So, yeah, I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about this. I want to get on to drawing this witch. There's a shadow. Oh, I know what that's from there. Let me fix that. Bring that light up here, get a little brighter. There we go. As usual, out of an overabundance of concern over what every social media platform does around any sort of nudity, there's going to be a couple of areas I'm not going to ink and stream. I'm only going to work for about an hour tonight as usual. So I'm going to focus on the head, the hat. You can see I sketched out a window here very quickly with pencil, and I'm just going to like draw some treetops to imply this is on the second floor. She's on like a settee. I originally had some cats running around, but they were just kind of visually distracting. So I just like the diagonal across the image with the square here and then the rectangular shapes here. So I'm gonna stick with that. Let's get those features down first again, because if I screw those features up, what do I say? If I screw those features up, I'm gonna print it out again, start all over again. So thank you so much. I've noticed that it's really great to see some people who are like aggressively sharing it. There's this wonderful account on Instagram called The Art of Witches, which has over 100,000. I wish I could remember. I think it's 140,000 followers on Instagram, and they shared a bunch of my witches, and they told me they're gonna share them again Monday. And it's done wonders for my social media presence. Hasn't moved the needle a lot in terms of people supporting the book. I get the feeling that a lot of people look at pictures but don't read the comments, so they have no idea. Still have no idea if there's a book. So there's literally nothing to be done about people like that who just don't read. But you do what you can, right? I saw a friend of mine who was complaining about social media, how everything seems to be video, and that if you really want people to grasp what you're doing, you have to make a video about it, but you have to make it instantly engaging to a point where it's like, if it's not immediately instantly engaging video, people just like will go to the next video. So we were talking, he goes, so what you got to need to do is you got to get one of those social media models who pose in a sheer outfit in front of a bright light to promote my witch book, and that's might be the only way I'll get real traction. And sadly, he may not be wrong. It's like they'll watch you if you have this incredibly athletic, attractive woman dressed as a witch talking about my book. That might be the only thing that'll sink through some of these people's heads. Um, but you do what you can. Gonna suggest some braid work for the hat band here. That might be a little hard to read. I like the eye to read, like the cat. I'm referring to the cat in the tree. I have in the past penciled in removed animals sitting in a tree because if I do something like that from a visual standpoint, I want it to be important enough to immediately be recognizable. Um, like if this was a big poster instead of like just a little 9 by 12 drawing, or the sheet's 9 by 12. Well, this is like 7 by 9 actually. Yeah, but on a 9 by 12 sheet. If I was doing a big poster, I would absolutely throw little not Easter eggs, but little details to be found later. Some in reward the reviewing of an image type elements, cats, ravens, like hiding in places that you don't see. But for a smaller piece like this, I feel almost does a disservice to overcomplicating the composition. Does a bit of a disservice to the size of the drawing and to the viewer. I'm sure there's artists out there who love to like just throw everything in there and have everyone play find it. But I much rather everyone get to see what I'm directing them at, and then save stuff like that for like I don't want to say puzzle pieces, but pieces of such complexity that it rewards staring at. Like if I did like a big poster of the witches walking through the woods from the Coven house, like I talked about in the past, there would be things in the trees. There would be lots and lots of things in those trees. Okay, so I got that. I'm using the real fine marker on this, so it'll contrast nicely with the thicker line work I'll do elsewhere. So as we near the end of spooky season, my God, like 9 days left, 9 more witches after this. There's a part of me that's excited with what I'm gonna come up with later. I've gotten most of the friends who wanted to be witches. I've witchified them. There's 1 or 2 left I might still do, time permitting, and because a lot like if I do the ones with my friends, sometimes I end up drawing a couple of times because I don't want to do anything that they're disappointed with. But 9 more witches, man. Then the month is done. Then it's all about getting the production on the book wrapped. Make that bridge a little heavier so the smile line drops a bit. Probably good. If you can see it, I accidentally right here. I accidentally joined the smile line with the nose noise. I normally leave a little break there. And so I'm gonna go is when I'm done this, I'm gonna do a little bit of white paint, just dab it so it'll create a little line break there, and it'll read us behind the nose. If they're touching, it almost becomes a tangent. Now I understand Dave Johnson critiqued an artist who included a few tangents and was piled on for. Now I suspect I know who the artist. I missed the whole kerfuffle, which is sad. I always hate missing out on industry nonsense. Not really, but yeah, tangents can be useful, like when you have unplanned connection points, like that nose touching that line, so it makes it look like the bridge actually comes all the way down to her cheek, which is not a good look. Um, and it's like every one of my mentors, so many articles about becoming a comic artist and drawing and composition talk about tangents and avoiding them. And it should almost be a mantra for almost any professional artist at this point. So finding a professional artist who screwed up, I think it's a cover piece, and put a tangent, apparently a couple of tangents in it. That's kind of embarrassing. Tangents should be either incredibly intentional or brilliantly intentional. So if you have a tangent, it gets an idea across in a really, really brilliant way. Let's see here. The heart is covering. What did I think of something bee monsters? There's a weird heart emoji floating above the chat there. So I can't read the whatever comes after the capital B. Sorry. That's weird that there's an emoji sitting over top of chat text. That seems like really, really bad design to me on YouTube's part. Okay, I'm not going to make any fans with monsters. I love Windsor Smith's artwork, and my personal experience of him has been rather disappointing. So I won't go there. But I was really looking forward to Monsters. The previews of it, all coming from the early, I don't know, 100 pages of the book, all looked absolutely stunning. And I started reading it, and he was doing these bravura imagery, storytelling elements just effortlessly through the whole book. But as you get through it, it became apparent to me he had no idea what the hell he was doing with the story. I know people who rave and love it, but from a writing standpoint, I mean, it has an ending. It doesn't have, the story doesn't have an ending. The book runs out of paper, essentially. Is the way I refer to it. The other thing I don't like is how obviously he was either losing his capability to draw or his interest in drawing in the book. At one point, I had this stunning realization that the pages of Monsters had resembled more Dave Sims' early Barry Windsor Smith aping. Dave Sim aping Barry Windsor Smith's work in Cerebus than actual Barry Windsor Smith artwork. The line work got flatter, had less character to it, and then there was less rendering, and then it just seemed like they were almost like tracing out layouts, which could be. I mean, if you're in bad health and you're trying to wrap up this was it 300 some odd page book, I can understand burnout, and especially at the point where it's like it had gone on for so damn long. You had to make it, all that time you spent on it seem worthwhile. But it's of a 300 page book, it's a really good 180 page book, if you get what I mean. I feel there should have been some financial pressure applied to make it worthwhile for Barry to finish it sooner. I mean, there was like significant amounts of time where he wasn't producing anything, as far as I know. And this is not, God, no matter what you do, whenever you criticize another professional, you don't know what they were going through at the time. And no matter what you say, there's going to be a certain amount of unfairness. But the book had no ending. The art quality dropped immensely during the last 100 pages or so, and I love how some people who just love Barry's work so much are able to overlook it. I wasn't. Um, it was a pointless story, taking way too long to tell, and it really showed that he lost his heat or his attention or his ability to execute the work at the same level by the end of it. And I mean, there's an element of a cautionary tale to it, where I hope that if I personally want to be able to produce work until, just before I drop. I don't see myself doing anything else in my life other than write and draw stories. But I do hope that I maintain my critical assessment of what I'm putting on the page up until the end. And I don't think that's I mean, damn. Should I grab monsters? Does anyone want me to point out what I see as issues with monsters, or should we just let it lie? Okay, give me 1 second. I think my copy of Monsters is in my other room. So 1 second. 1 second. Well, it looks like I'm putting some new shelves up in my living room. So a whole bunch of books got put in boxes. And I think Monster got put in that. So it didn't show up immediately. So I'm not going to waste your guys' time. If you want, next week I'll make a point of having Monsters on hand to talk about it a bit at the beginning. Now, again, I think he does some. Oh my God, some beautiful, beautiful art, some incredible storytelling devices in the opening 100 or so pages of the book. But he was unable to maintain that high standard through to the end, which happens. Sadly, it's the way of the industry in the medium. But yeah, it's like his weird look is Barry Windsor Smith's storyteller stuff. Maintained its quality all the way through, for the most part. Doesn't quite reach the heights that he reaches in Monster in terms of like where he was able to execute. But yeah, it was like it's I've seen a lot of people talking about being like the book of the year and all that stuff, and it's like, yeah, I have an inner Windsor Smith fanboy. I just can't. I can't. Ad Astra in Africa is a better work as a whole, I think. Um, you know what? There's cats everywhere. There's gonna be like some pulls. Yeah. Oh, I hope you're enjoying Doom. Did you get to see the animated movie? Did we talk about that already? I'm actually very happy with how they did the animated movie. I felt all the changes were earned, made sense, and in many ways, the animated version of the story holds up a little better than what we did in the graphic novel. This line's a little crooked. Move that over there. I love when you're like inking your pencils. You go, "Oops, I made a mistake. Let's hope my in ink correction works." From before Conan. Oh my God. Yeah, I was kind of young. I was born in '68. So I first encountered Barry Windsor Smith's Conan in one of the reprints. I think it was the Treasury edition of Red Nails. Um, and it blew my mind. So I missed his earlier kind of um, growing pains stages on Conan with the heavy Kirby influence. I mean, he's very much the example of the artist who got so good so fast that you almost forget how weird it was what he was doing when he first broke in, that weird kind of Kirby impression. Mm-hmm. Here I am just rotating, drawing every single way. I'm going to use a 005 for this. See if I find it. There it is. Conan for me was almost always more John Buscema than Barry Windsor Smith. I mean, he was doing Savage Sword when I was getting into comics. He had off and on drawn the regular monthly for a big chunk of that time. And it was just something so powerfully physical about John's Conan. Barry never got that. But Barry had this kind of weird elegance, Art Nouveau elegance to his Conan, which made it feel like an alien world, especially in comparison to the comics being put out at the time. I mean, it would be like, what if Craig Russell drew Conan, which he had, but more recently, like early Craig Russell. Um, but John had almost like he was channeling that pure power that Conan was supposed to exude in the stories in a way that Barry just wasn't going to be able to emulate. Should I know? Okay. Again, stay away from areas I should not ink on camera. I'm going to start doing the hat. Here. Yeah, exactly. Ant-Man to Kill Raven. True. The young thief early in, I think it was also like Roy Thomas, like wanting to almost add an element of chronological order to the Conan comics. So I mean, Windsor Smith lucked out for that. His later, oh my God, his Conan reprint covers were astoundingly beautiful, um, both in color and execution. I mean, it had all those same like little weird kind of quirks and Barry's anatomy that always bothered me. And this is just a preference, not criticism of the work, because I mean it worked for him. That kind of Art Nouveau bulby anatomy that doesn't really connect with the human body in any way. Um, but it was always off-putting when he was like he'd have an arm, and I'm going like I don't recognize any of those shapes in that arm as actual surface anatomy. Um, it was weird. I mean, it's like you start off just looking at Barry's working, going ooh and ah, and the more you learn, the more you kind of go, oh, he just drew whatever the fuck he wanted there, and it looks like an arm, so I guess it's an arm. So I'm just doing this. This pen in particular, some of the ink is taking a little longer to dry, so I'm just putting a sheet on to keep from smudging little bits of ink all over the paper. I'm not censoring right now. I'm literally just protecting the drawing. There's one really brilliant one where I just saw it online again recently. I think Richard Starkings was posting it. It was Conan just standing next to like some weird skull on a spike with like crystalline feathers flaring up from it, and behind him was this wall of spikes, wooden spikes. Beautifully bizarre image. I just loved it. It was just so gorgeous to look at. I'm going to put a solid black on the shadow side of that brush. Yeah, and I gotta say, Barry drew some of the weirdest looking women in comics. It's like their eyes are always floating way too close to the top of their head. Their mouths always seem to be floating, disconnected with the rest of the skull anatomy in the head. And there almost seemed to be like this weird little boyishness to the female characters he drew. I doubt that was. I mean, he's also drawn some like really fully sensual stuff, especially some of the stuff from the studio days where there were just full feminine Dante Gabrielle Rossetti type women. But I think about that blonde assistant in the Wolverine Weapon X series he did, where it's like, is she supposed to be 14? She looks 14. It's just things that get they kind of. And again, I would only have noticed this because I was such a big fan. It's like you start questioning why they do certain things, and yeah, so it's and I wouldn't have noticed if I wasn't like so completely in love with that monstrous workload he threw into every comic book. Like some of those covers with the level of detail. Honestly, I think my favorite work for hire Windsor Smith gig was his Wounded Wolf story from X-Men with Wolverine and one of the Power Pack kids in a snowstorm fighting a whole bunch of high-tech mercenaries and oh god, what was her name? The one with the super long blade fingers. I can't remember that shit. Now, do I want to freehand all the background details and make it feel like old, or do I want to do a little bit of? Yeah, I'm going to freehand it. I'm going to freehand all that stuff. The Coven house is centuries old. Again, all that world building I do on my own in my head. So it just feels older and more handmade if I don't. I obviously used a ruler for getting all the stuff from proper perspective. So as long as I'm just being true to the lines I initially put down, It'll feel a little bit more organic. I'm just racing through this. I knew I had to give myself a couple of simpler ones to do because I've been doing so many ones like that one with the cauldron and all the light and smoke and all the splatter and rubber stamping and everything. That one took forever. So I had to let's just do a nice simple one. Like I did the one that got posted. I don't think it's Lady Death. What is it? Lady. Damn it. I bet if I went back to the room where I was supposed to see monsters, I'd be able to find Weapon X pretty fast, but I don't want to waste any more time. You guys are here to watch me draw, not leave the room and go, I wonder what that is. Where's that thing? But yeah, it's also I think the in my latest they did a reprint with new colors on Weapon X. It was oversized. There was a hardcover edition which I missed out. I thought they were just going to make it a permanent hardcover. Marvel was terrible for like keeping their evergreen books on available, so I missed out their hardcover Weapon X recolor oversized, and I got the paperback. So I feel lucky for that. But I think it actually has a whole bunch of other covers from previous editions and stuff like that. And it has Lady Deathstrike. I think it's my memory might be playing a trick on me. I'm pretty sure it's Lady Deathstrike because that sounds like a very 80s type villain name. Yeah, trim, wainscoting. I was actually going to do the parallel stuff, but I wanted to keep it a little more simple around the finger because again, I've been doing stuff that's been so busy lately. What I might do is I might just do a little bit of rubber stamp just under here, real subtle for that shadow effect without getting into too much detail there. I think that might be fair. Okay, honestly, Marvel needs to come up with a villain for Deadpool called Lady Stabby Hands, and if they don't, I think you should pitch it to them. And the story should be Deadpool and that old lady from the Deadpool movies walking around in a super heavy rainstorm, slipping and sliding everywhere because New York is flooding, and they're running from Lady Stabby Hands and her mercenaries. That Marvel has to do that because they'll sell better than anything else they're doing right now. Ooh, that sound like a dig at Marvel? Maybe. I feel sad for Marvel. They were run by Ike Perlmutter. I think they might still. I think he got forced out, so maybe he's gone for good. But he's an asshole. I mean, I knew he was an asshole before everyone found out he was a Trump supporter. And my follower count just dropped. He apparently had this really harsh stance against reprinting material and keeping anything in stock. He saw that as wasted money. So Marvel never overprinted anything in terms of trade paperbacks. They printed the order and they had to clear out their stock almost immediately. They couldn't keep stuff past 1 year. Meanwhile, DC was essentially making bank off of Dark Knight and pretty much all the Alan Moore catalog that they still had, just by keeping it in print so they could print it in bulk cheap enough to just keep making them. Think about that. I mean, that's, I think, the biggest difference between Marvel and DC. Marvel doesn't know how to foster evergreen books anymore. And ninja, did someone say ninjas? Yeah, ninjas. Minions and ninjas. So they're yellow, odd shaped, but they wear ninja gear. And it's all yellow. And what they think makes them sneaky is the fact that they're so visually obvious that no one thinks they could be up to anything not good. Yeah, I like ninjas. Yeah, you got to pitch that. You got to do that. You got to do that story. Yeah, it's hard to feel sorry for Marvel, but I feel sorry for the people creating stuff at Marvel because they just didn't allow stuff to happen. I had a Ghost Rider story, which I think would have been an evergreen Ghost Rider story, and I got told point blank they weren't doing stories set in heaven or hell anymore at Marvel because they didn't want to deal with the religious stuff, which I understand from a political standpoint, but it's so creatively brain dead. Wow, without drawing the far boob, she looks dangerously prepubescent. Okay, I'm gonna have to. I'll just do an outline. I won't draw the nipple. I'll just draw the outline. Seems to be the issue with nudity on these sites are nipples and other details, if you know what I mean. There we go. She actually looks like a somewhat adult woman. Overalls, bright yellow overalls, and high-tech cyborg implants, and uni eyes, and they talk in chirps of some sort. I might not be remembering Minions that well. Wow, this one is just blowing by. I should do super simple ones more often. I am going to be doing like a lot of little dots on the wall to make the wall seem older, maybe some cracks. But let's get this window down here. Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to be smudging this ink in case it's not drying very quick. Part of the smudging is the fact I'm using a smooth surface paper, not a vellum paper. When I was stocking up for Witchtober to do all these drawings, I wanted to be consistent, and they had a brand of vellum finished Bristol that not Strathmore, Fabriana, and it's nice. It's not exactly what I was looking for, but it was nice. But it was really, really bumpy. So certain lines really came out bumpy, like far more bumpy than you'd ever want them to. And then I had the choice for the Strathmore plate finish. And I just went, well, I have to go for more for consistency than anything else. So plate finish it is. And because the ink is sitting on such a smooth, level surface, it takes a little longer to dry. So, and also I think this box, it all depends from this box, seem to be a little juicier. Is that right? A good term to use? More, the ink comes out, stays wet a little longer. So it might be a slightly different formulation, or it might entirely just be this plate finish paper. Now, one of the things I noticed is the smudges from this pen erase really well. See if I can find one. There's a little smudge right there. Does that show up? It's a little smudge right there. And I can just take a vinyl eraser, and about 80% of that smudge just goes away. Oh, there's some in the shoulder too. And it just goes away like immediately. Where's my brush? There it is. Where it's supposed to be. I just didn't look far enough. But it's better not to have those than So you don't have to erase them, then to have those and kind of go, oh shoot, that didn't work. Okay, I'm gonna use, I didn't finish drawing the window because I knew I could finish it without drawing the lines. So I'm going to draw the foredge of the top window. Back edge. Darken that in there. All right. I initially had some curtains planned to draw on there, and I realized that they made the window far. I want this graphic shape. Kind of pointing at the witch with the diagonal come across the horizontal there. The replicated rectangular shape here. I figure that just makes a tighter composition. But as soon as I add the curtains with the level of detail you generally have to put and make curtains feel like they're um, corrugating, would totally undermine the shapes I put down. And I try and think geometrically when I'm doing composition. So, but with this shape here, bouncing off here, I can go and think about the shape I want to give the tree as it goes out. So I want a little bit of a tree coming in this corner, and I want the bigger tree here. And I don't want the lines to have too much weight, so I'm just doing a whole bunch of parallel lines with the 005. There we go. So even if I put a lot of lines together to make it feel like there's some darkness and weight to a trunk, it'll never be as dark as, say, if I drew a trunk the same thickness with 3. That just reads so much darker than that. So this immediately feels like there's some atmospheric perspective in there. Hey, so what movies for the season, spooky season, of course, what spooky season movies, TV shows are you watching? Are you rewatching? You just catching up on stuff you missed, or are there do you guys have standard, I have to watch this every Halloween type stuff? Tell me everything. Getting decidedly into fall. So you must have noticed in this that the trees started with lots and lots of leaves, and now there's I'm drawing fewer leaves and more bare branches and more leaves blowing around. I got a pencil at the one for Tuesday already. And that one's another one out in the woods. Clearly, I like drawing trees. Naked women, big hats, and trees. That's probably get that on my tombstone somehow. Ooh, what I did in terms of old noir movies, I went and watched all three versions of Nightmare Alley. And that was a Halloween thing, just because I wanted to prep myself up properly for seeing the Del Toro version again. I wanted to be able to compare it to the previous ones. And the Del Toro one is my second favorite one. I love Guillermo's work with a passion. I'd love to work with him on anything, design some monsters with him. I mean, he's got great people for that, so he doesn't need me, but I'd love to be able to do that. But I thought he got amazing performances. Probably better performances than any of the other Nightmare Alley movies. But I feel it just probably because I was familiar with the story and where the horror of it came from, and the big punchlines and jokes and scares and stuff. Yeah, I just felt that it just didn't hold up to the original, which is always a hard call because I mean cinema from that time was already so fresh. I'm going to take the '01 to put some heavier, darker lines in the gray there, so it'll actually make the gray feel like it's that. The way the top of a tree, as it's losing all its leaves, kind of looks like it just turns almost into like a screen tone at a distance. I also want to put some bigger dots in there to represent the leaves. If this was just a little bit bigger, I'd use a brush. I could have more of a random shape plop down by tapping the tip of the brush down. But it's so far away, I just want I'm also going to do just a little bit of it. Hang on. I'll use my fade one. What I like about my rubber stamps, and again, I got to find the time to order some more. I got so many more different textures. These just using the corners of, like, this is the full fade. So I just put the ink on the corner. This is my dark to light fade stamp. And at the end, there's like a weird kind of like, they're all negative now. Whereas on this side of the rubber stamp, it's tiny, tiny dots. And here it's holes in the solid rubber. So I'm essentially stamping down little holes there, and I can go to the other side and then just do some open dots, and it just fills in. And you layer it enough, it doesn't read like corners from a rubber stamp. Actually ends up feeling like, oh my gosh, I drew something, but I didn't. I'm lazy. I cheated with my rubber stamps. I'm Mr. Cheaty Face. There we go. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to get across in that window. In fact, while I got it out, what did I do? Well, you know what I'm going to do? To make it be smarter and easier. I'll take a little bit of tape and I'll pull this up to the top. There we go. So I'm going to just You know, I can use my recycle some Post-its here. So I forget that these kind of like create a bit of a lip, which stops the rubber stamp from getting all the way in. So I can go up a little bit higher. Any dots that go into this bottom edge will feel like the material curling under. A little bit of tape on this, just on the sun side, because I don't want tape on that. There's part of me that is very much looking forward to like one more week of Witches. Next week is the last live. Let's see here. I just did a whole Guillermo del Toro rewatch in September. Watched everything, and it got started off by the Nightmare Alley rewatch. Yeah, I rewatch his Hellboys. I do love his Hellboys so much better than that last one. I got high hopes for the new one because I know how much the studio interfered with the last one. It was the stories I heard are far worse than anything I've heard said publicly by anyone involved. There's a reason why when a movie goes on a promo cycle and the director doesn't show up, that means the studio messed with his movie quite a bit. So what I want to do here, I gotta be careful. So I don't want to have like a big over stamp here. So I'm just gonna. Might come back into this a little bit of light line work because this came out too far. But I can scribble into that and I'll just read pretty good, I think. Well, it feels like it's dark underneath the SETI. Oh, I know what I can do. I don't want to have any accidental stamp overs there. Yeah. Way too much there. I'm going to have to use white paint there to pull it back a bit. But it really gets the idea that it's there's shadow underneath there. I did the plot. Everything except for the ending and a few scenes were everything as I wrote in the initial pitch. Then Mike made it more of a Mike story. He added some bits like the werewolves, which I didn't understand, but Mike wanted werewolves in there. I'm not going to complain. And that ending was not at all mine. I wanted Batman to blind himself and fight Ra's al Ghul blind because he wouldn't have wanted to see the elder horror world that Ra's al Ghul had opened. So all the dialogue was pretty much Mike's, and some of the key points that he added were Mike's. The plot was pretty much entirely mine. A lot of the cool bits, I think, are the cool bits. The Cobblepot expedition, doing like pretty much all the Lovecraft tie-ins were already baked in by my breaking down everything. Okay, that feels like a nice. There would be like dust bunnies running around underneath there like crazy because of all the cats and everything. I can do the gloves too. I'm starting to run out of things I can ink without worrying about running afoul of. Green Arrow dies early. He's pretty much there. It's again the I don't want to spoil the film version for you. I think they do Green Arrow much better in the animated movie. I think we did him a little dirty. But the Arrows of Saint Sebastian was a wonderful thing, and I felt we needed Green Arrow in there to get that across, and that was one of the bits that Mike really liked from my pitch to him to do this. Yeah, he's a lot better treated, and a better character in the animated movie. I felt. I think we did him a slight disservice. I gotta be careful. I'm gonna sign here, I think, so I can make all sorts of like visual noise and dots on the floor and the wall everywhere else. Green Arrow is one of those characters who feels like such a Batman ripoff. It really doesn't make sense why. Put a little crack down the wall here. Why he still exists? Because he's almost identical to Batman, and a rich kid becomes a superhero, which I think was the point. I'll stick with the one. Yeah, I don't. It's almost like he's a little bit like Hawkman in the sense that he was created at a time when they thought they needed that type of character, and almost since that golden age heyday, they've been struggling to find a reason to keep using him. Mike Grell did some kind of brutal, interesting stuff. I like the Emming run. Emming? I should ask him how to pronounce his name. I call him Mike. There's a beautiful run drawn. The stories were forgettable, but it was drawn by Rodolfo DiMaggio, who was he now works in Hollywood exclusively. He was just his drawings were impeccable, like classically trained draftsman in the golden age of illustration style. Yeah, it feels like there's no, and this is terrible for like fans of the character who love. I mean, if you love the character, you love the character. There's nothing about that. He is now a unique character, but he is so many ways filling the same niche as what Batman originally was. You're kind of stuck with, okay, so what can we do with him to make him his own guy? And so they made him like this liberal, former rich guy, politician guy, or he might be rich again, he might be poor again, may not be a politician anymore. I mean, it's like they keep bouncing back and forth. And the same thing has happened to Hawkman, who I think that last run, I had to catch up. I was ignoring Hawkman because it's been so terrible for so long. I caught up on the run because I did an alt cover for that run. And I think it was Peter J. Tomasi. I could be wrong. It was just a really, really good, inventive run with the character. And I think it lasted almost 2 years, which is a long time in modern comics, superhero comics. Yeah, but because it's so hard to find a space for that character to exist in a way that the readership wants to have, you're always kind of stuck. I think part of also the problem is so many of these characters were created for kids' stories. So now everyone wants them to be all grown up. And then you got to put like grown up dress on the most absurd ideas. I gotta say, it's like there's been some great, my late great friend, I think he was my best friend in comics for the longest time. Mike Ringo had a run on the Flash, but that's one of those characters that is very much a children's, young adult at best character, given grown-up dress in a way that can occasionally generate a good story, but in no way makes the character better. I mean, a grown-up story featuring the Flash might be cool, but he is like Green Lantern, like the original. I mean, they're fairy tales. They're modern fairy tales. Like the kid who's always late now gets a ring so he can run faster than anything, but he still ends up late because he's saving people. That's a brilliant conceit for kids and teens. I think The Flash should be one of the most fun, interesting books aimed at pleasing that market. Every time they try and make it grown up, they're getting further and further away from the core charm of the character. And this is my opinion. This might be an old man's opinion too, because I mean, when I was in my teens, and I think even up into my 20s, I love superheroes. I thought superheroes were perfectly valid, and they were. But a lot of my rationale was Alan Moore was doing this, but he was the first person doing it, and then everyone else just copied it. And eventually, I kind of went, yeah, if I'm going to do superhero, unless they specifically do a grown-up superhero. I mean, I'm talking about a guy who tried to pitch a miniseries about the Demon as an infernal history of the DC universe. So, I got to be careful because otherwise I'm like a complete hypocrite. But I feel there needs to be space for these kids to be, these characters to be for kids still. I almost feel that there should be an imprint for the adult fans who are still coming, and then an imprint for the kids. This is an imprint I wanted to pitch Dan DiDio in, but he never takes the meetings, and now he's gone. I wanted to do a legendary imprint. I was pitching an imprint for DC Comics where it would be called the Legendary Batman, Legendary Superman, and the idea is you get creators on board to do young adult level fiction with these characters, and the idea was you get it's kind of like a game of chess. You have all the villains available, and these are the Joker's just a Joker. He's not like the trifecta Joker or Joker who laughs or whatever. Penguin's always a Penguin. Catwoman's like the standard handbook of the DC universe identity of Batman and his villains. And those cast of characters, and then you tell your story, and you can do whatever you want in your story. You can completely change the status quo. If you can figure out the way to make a young adult novel of the Batman or a graphic novel of the Batman work with like everyone dying, cool, because your story's done. You tell your story, and then the next team that comes on board, all the pieces reset in the chessboard, and so you get nothing but classic standalone tales by the best people in comics. Using these characters. At least that's what I thought. I thought it would have been a good pitch. Atlas monsters are cool. Yeah. I'm glad Leslie Sam is getting some gas. Yeah, I think it was Venditti and Hitch. We're already going back 4 years now? 5 years? COVID has destroyed my ability to tell how long ago anything was. All right, so I've done this witch apart from the bits I can't do or shouldn't do live on YouTube, and we're just past 8, so I'm on an hour here. Anyone got any questions before I end stream? Let's see if I can. Here's something I can do. There we go. I got that part done. Guess I can draw the other part of the breast here. I'm just staying away from the nipples. Yeah, I think nipples are verboten on social media. All right, so no questions. All right, so again, this is the second last witch for Witchtober. next week is the last Witch of Witchtober, and then my God, and then 2 days later, it's Halloween and the end of Witchtober, and the campaign ends 2 days after that. Awesome. Thank you all for coming out. Thanks for chatting with me. Keep me from feeling like I'm, talking to myself, which generally am. You guys have a great week. I will be posting this first thing tomorrow morning when it's done, and which is every single day this week through next weekend. And hopefully I'll see you all back next Sunday. Have a great night.